All right. Now, this man is an infinity, which means he knows what he's talking about. Would you agree? He hit infinity EVP last night. That alone deserves a hand. Give it up. Keep it going. As I bring to the front of the room, Mr. John Bedford. L. Give a round of applause.
Because last night I had a dream that I fell up those steps. But see, y'all won't be putting that on YouTube this morning, this afternoon. Well, I'm going to talk about business card prospecting. I'm going to get to that, and I'm not going to go over time. I'm going to talk about a few things. I think business card prospecting, or any type of prospecting, starts with mentality. It starts with where you are. I want you to think about that. Let me talk to you a little bit about where I was. I remember when I first started this type of business. I was a shy person. I was a person that did not like talking to people. Doing something like this in front of all you scared the death out of me. But I knew I had to change. I knew I had to change, and here's my reason. And some of you have heard this story and heard me say this. What happened is I looked at my family, and I looked at 100 years of people working, and everybody was broke. I looked at my father who worked for 30 years. I looked at his father who worked for 30 years. And I looked at his father before him that worked for 30 years. And nobody had $1 million. Now, how does a family work for 100 years and everybody broke? I didn't want no more of that. So I said, John has to change. So I started to get around people that were better than me. I was very young in the business. I was 21, 22, 23 years old, talking about doing networking. Now, if anybody in here who's been 20 years old before, you know what you were doing at 20 years old, and 22 and 23. You weren't talking about getting rich. When I started talking to my friends about getting rich, they looked at me like I was crazy. But see, now they're the ones that's crazy. Okay? Now, business cards, business cards, business cards. You see, you got to understand something. A business card is the easiest form of prospecting because it's something that can be with you at all times. It's not bulky, it's relatively inexpensive. So we're going to talk about this is your #1 tool. I would say this more so than online marketing. I think online marketing is great. I recruit people all the time online. I have attraction marketing going on. People see my videos and say, well, I saw you online and I saw this other video and I didn't know what they was talking about, but you made sense. So I want to join you in business. And I sign them up. But here's the thing. When you got people all over the country and you can't build rapport with them, you got a problem because you can lose them just as easily as you got them. Does that make sense? So when you got a business card, you can build rapport face to face. Okay? So let's go out and out prospecting. You meet people through your daily life. See, prospecting should be a way of life for you. You don't necessarily go out and do prospecting. You do it as you go. You do it everywhere you are. You pull out a business card and start talking to somebody. But you got to use a specific technique. You can't just jump out there like Sana said and just start, oh, I'm in my econ, income shifting, yada, yada, yada. They don't want to hear that. They don't even know what that is. So what you do is you start talking about some very common things. You want to stay away from negative topics. So don't start the conversation with what you think about Trump. That's divisive, isn't it? Anything divisive that could create a negative feeling, you want to stay away from that. So politics, religion, talk about they bad kids. See, you can talk about family, but you don't want to talk about how bad those children run around and they didn't do something about it. Everybody got it? Because y'all seen that too, right? Okay, so now, let's go to the next slide. The F stands for family, inform. So you want to start talking to them about family. And you want to come to them on a common ground, usually even before that. So like I might be at a restaurant or I might be at a coffee shop. Let's say I'm at a coffee shop and I see somebody reading the money section. Because I stay up on what's going on with money, I can have a conversation about what they read. So that means you got to change. That's another thing. You got to change. You can't just read the ebony. You need to understand what's going on in the CNN money, right? So now when you read that and now you sit there talking to them, now you can start talking to them about family. If they got young children with them, I always say, I remember my daughter was that age. Anybody here got children? Do you like to talk about your kids? That's one of the reasons why we picked that. Because we know that you're just going to start talking and gushing about how you love your kids and all this stuff and what they do, right? So now you come to a common ground. You're building rapport. They're feeling better about you. Occupation. I take this one to the next step. I say, okay. I say, you look pretty professional. What do you do? Anybody here like talking about their work? All the time. I see people all the time. They tell me about everything they do. What we did, what we didn't do, all this stuff, right? And then I always lead in with, they probably pay you a lot of money to do that. So now here, see, I got my agenda, like Sana said, I got my agenda. No, they don't pay me no money. I wish they paid me more. But I don't even go in for the kill there. R is recreation, okay? What do you like to do in your spare time when you're not working at that job that you love? So now they start talking about, I like this, I like that. Especially if it's something that I like to do as well, I talk a little bit more about that. And then, right there at the end, they probably ask me a question. It's like 9 times out of 10. They say, what do you do? Uh-oh. They done stepped in it. See, they getting prospected without knowing they're getting prospected. That's the key. You can't look like a salesperson running up on them. So now, they say, what do you do? Oh, I teach income shifting. Then I'll stop, dead silence. What's that? Well, I teach people how to lower their tax brackets from higher tax brackets to lower ones. Give them usually $200 to $1,000 a month. Now they can knock out some car notes, some credit cards, some student loans, some mortgages. You got any of that? They say yes. And I say, wouldn't you like to have some more money for investments? Yes. Well, that's what I do. As a matter of fact, you know anybody that might be interested? If they don't say me, they're not a prospect. You already know where they're at. Why would you try to go on and push my econ on that person when you just told them about something? See, anybody with common sense should want that. What do you think? So, I don't prospect them. But the other person, I might prospect. And the first thing I do is I business card prospect. I built my business primarily through business card prospecting. And I promise you and I'll prove to you that it works. See, Sana said she went to a networking meeting and she was talking to some other folks. I met Marla Summers in another networking meeting. I went to a meetup group and I met Manola Webster. Both of them gold plus. Manola Webster thought she was going to recruit me. She was telling me about a little thing called Legal Shield. I was cool with that. And she asked me what I did. Uh-oh, she stepped in. Gave her a business card, did a presentation, signed up, bam, on the spot. I was out at a coffee shop. See, another thing, just to give you an idea here. I met James Anderson. He was with 2 or 3 guys, they was all dressed in suits. I said, I walked over to him. I said, you guys look like y'all trying to take over the world. What y'all do? Well, how do you think a person gonna answer that question? Yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I said, okay, that sounds pretty interesting. Then I went right into, how do you get that done? How do you do that? Because they were working with another technology company. Next thing you know, I did a presentation for James. Now his took a little while longer. Because when I sat there with him, I gave him a rebate on the table. He said, man, I don't need your money. Uh-oh. I got 9 minutes and 57 seconds. Anyway, a couple months later, he signed up. He Gold Plus. That's all because I did a presentation after I prospected them and built rapport on a face-to-face. 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 Okay? Yes. Okay. Now, this just talks about some things. You might say, I work with a company that helps people increase their cash flow by minimizing their taxes, accumulating income, producing assets. I don't know if this is something you're interested in. You're taking it away. It makes them want it more. I will gladly give you some free information. They like free. Do you have an email address or a contact number? People out here talking about they prospecting and they don't get a phone number. You're not prospecting. You're doing tax advantage of a home-based business. That's what you're doing. Tax advantage of a home-based business. You're getting deductions, but you can't recruit nobody without a phone number. Okay? All right, that's another option there. Okay, I work with a company that helps people shift cash flow from taxes and debt to investment income. I don't know if this is something you're interested in, but I will gladly give you some free information. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, options, options, options. Okay? Go to the next one. Okay? These are peek and pass. I'm calling because I met you. I promised you some free information about my company and strategies. Here's the thing. Don't wait 2 or 3 months to call the person back. That's the worst thing you can do. They don't remember you and you probably don't remember them. See, when you get a business card, here's the thing. Here's the technique with business cards. Here's how you get a phone number. And you got to be very careful with this if you're dealing with the opposite sex when you're doing all this, because if you start with, girl, you look good in that dress, they're going to think you want something else as opposed to business. So you don't want that kind of stuff. You want to keep it on the straight and narrow. But when you have your business cards, always pull out 2. Never pull out 1. Pull out 2 cards. And then what I do is I say, here's my business card. Do you have one? 9 times out of 10, do people have business cards? That's why I got another one. Now, you got to get a phone number. Anybody ever prospected somebody and they didn't give you a phone number? I just call you. You know what that means, right? They're not calling. But here's what you do. You say, here's my card. Do you have one? And you pull out an ink pen. And you flip that baby over, and then you just put it right here. And you just wait. They're going to feel obligated to give you their phone. They'll give you the phone number. You don't even, if you look them in the face and ask for the phone number, they'll say no. If you put it to the thing like this and say, give me your number. Always give the number. Okay? Let's go to the next one here. Now, I see a lot of people with a lot of different business cards. Get some good quality business cards, folks. That's the first piece of marketing literature that somebody sees about you. I see people with cars and stuff that's all on their printer from home and it's all jacked up and crooked. Come on. You talking about a multi-million-dollar business, but you look like you just made this on the, or you just drew it on there. Come on. We got some great quality business cards in your back office. I have people that's been in business 6 months. Where do I get business cards from? That tells me something right there. You haven't even logged into your website. You haven't been to the back office. But you tell me, I want to get rich, please. So what we do is we got all kind of different flavors for you right here. Go there and get some. They start at $29.95. Gotta make sure I'm still on time. Okay, let's go to brochure prospecting. Now, this is another pet peeve of mine. I see people making all kind of flyers. They stuff misspelled, errors all in it, in black and white. Why don't you just get this stuff we already got for you? It's already put together. Look at that. Look how easy that is. You buy these for about $5, $10 for some of them. And then what you do, see on the back, that's the American Finance. That gives a person a lot of information. You give them a brochure, okay? Always pull them out. These two are the great ones. These are great ones. I primarily use this one. Very generic, but it's got some very, very detailed information about taxes, which they need. And if they hooked on finance just a little bit, it's gonna be a pretty good deal. So what I do, I give them a brochure. I say, hey, you mind if my name is John, I'm a business owner in town. I'd like to give you one of my brochures, is that okay? For free. They always say, yeah, that's fine. So I give the brochure. Now, if I don't get in there, if I don't ask, if I don't get a phone number, what's up? I don't got a prospect, do I? So what I do is say, hey, I teach people income shifting. You ever heard of it? It's the same thing over and over again. Repetition. Repetition will explode your business. The worst thing you can do is prospect 10 people today and then don't prospect none for the next month. You got to go get you prospects regularly. And you want to follow up with your prospects within 24 to 48 hours if possible. And when you get their information, walk away and write some information down so you remember them on the back of your card. Remember, they had kids. You talked about this, what they do. And see, now when you get that kind of information in the conversation, you can size them up to see if they fit my econ. If they say they're an engineer, you know they're making a little money. And that means they're paying some taxes. And if they got a little income, there's a lot of companies that's going to try to put them in debt. What you think? So you know they got some debt. So taxes and debt is the two number one ingredients that we help solve, right? Two problems. And then you know that if they got taxes and debt, they got very little for investments. So that's a good prospect. But if they say, I don't have any income, I've been working for, 2 years, they ain't got no taxes to cut. So I don't know if that's a good fit. Make sense? Okay, next brochure. That's the tax one. Okay, keep moving. Conclusion. Purchase a quantity of brochures from my econ, attach your business card to each brochure, and pass 3 brochures out a day and meet new people. The key is meeting new people. New people. New blood solves every problem in your business. Every problem. Not making enough money? Go get some new people. Want to change where you live? Get some new people. Get enough of them, you change your zip code. Is that right?
That's right. That's it.
Okay? Always keep business cards and brochures with you. Don't be sitting around talking about, oh man, I'm going to write my number now. See, you're messing up your professional image. You got to look like something people want to be a part of. Make sense? You don't have to get the latest and greatest, fanciest clothes. I remember when I started prospecting, and Raheem was probably in the room, he always tell me he knew when I changed. He saw me stop wearing jeans and start putting on suits. But since I didn't have any money to go get some suits, I went to the Salvation Army. I paid $3 for a blazer and about $2 for some slacks. And I asked for little shoes that I got from Payless. But I was ready to go.
Yeah.
I was ready to go. Couldn't tell me nothing. See, I understand what it is to be broke. I've been there. But see, I had mentality. I remember the first time I got in business. It was in Excel Communications. And I'm going to close with this. My car note was due. It was $348. And it cost about $300 to start the business. Most people would have said, well, I got this going on, I got to pay this thing, I got to do this, I'm going to get back with you when I can get straight. The problem is I ended up having a plan to get straight, so I wasn't going to get straight. So I just signed up in business. I made a decision, said I'm going to pay them later. I didn't know how important that decision was. So I got in business and eventually changed my life. I remember taking bottles to put gas in my car. I don't have that problem no more. See, you're going to have circumstances, issues in your life. You got to keep fighting. And the time where you don't feel like doing a presentation is the time you need to do one. The time you don't feel like prospecting somebody is when you need to prospect. Because if you get in that comfort zone of saying, I don't feel like doing it right now, it's going to go into weeks, it's going to go into months, and next thing you know, it's a year later, and you're thinking about phasing out. thing ain't working. We can't afford that, can we? We got a lot to do. So that's my time. I want to thank y'all. And